here from the TLMC-17. This feels like quite the map for TVZ, actually. This feels like quite the map for a bit of TVZ action, so let's see just what happens on it. In the top left-hand side, our blue Terran player will be Cure. In the bottom right, our red Zerg player from Team Liquid is Elazer. I guess just a moment or two as Cure, man. Cure's just in a proxy mood, isn't he? He's opened every series he's played with a proxy so far. And this is going to be proxy 3-rack, so he is really not messing around. Okay, well, Cure, if this is how you want to do it, then this is how you want to do it. Sure. He's just testing out how good the proxy positions are on these new maps, guys. An important part of playing Terran is just knowing how well you can proxy racks for when shit hits the fan, you're completely done with being Protoss and Zerg. You're just like, you know what? I just want to cheese the crap out of people. You got to know how good these maps are for that, right? So yeah, we'll build this up over here. Let's take a quick trip around the map then, initially. And this one is pretty fun, I would say. You got this third base out over here protecting this kind of initial push in. Honestly, like, this forward base was one that was kind of highlighted originally as well. This forward base over here, definitely kind of an interesting one for kind of, you know, later in the game, trying to hold that position, hold one of the attack paths with a base. And, yeah, for now, that's all we're going to see of it, and we're going to go talk about the proxy rack. So, here we go. As we do get our bunker down, we start this up. And a couple of Marines will start a harass. Now, drone's going to pull, and they are going to get a surround on this bunker if needed. The drone's going to try and chase down the Marines and the SCVs, and obviously quite the commitment here on the drones, but it's a very committed 3-rack, so you can afford to pull a lot of drones here. Guarantee this bunker does not get up. We lose nothing so far, which is pretty nice. We do have our first Lings now out, and obviously Queen not far from finishing as well. If you can get this Queen out and then really just deny this bunker one more time, I feel like a lot of the time that's all you really need in this situation. The Marine count has continued to grow. That is one benefit we've seen. Here come the drones again. Let's see how much we lose. You must kill this SCV on the bunker. That's the Queen's job while these Marines get chased away. Honestly, not ideal, right? I feel like you lost the Lings very quickly here. So the drones are now fighting Marines on their own, which is, again, just not really the ideal situation at all. And I'm just going to be seeing this bunker is actually going to finish up with this SCV, and I think Elazer is actually now in trouble here for game one here on Gresvan. And oh, okay, Cure, I don't know what Cure, if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed this one, and don't know if you map makers like were crap talking Cure in a live report thread or something, but he's just like not a he's just not a fan. He's just like, yeah, you know, map makers, you want to see a maps be played? Well, watch my proxies. Cure gonna give us another quick one as this is of course still a tournament, guys, right? Still a lot of money on the line, so it's obviously still very much so play games to the best of your ability. And you know, it wouldn't be true testing if everyone just assumed no one was going to cheese and everyone's just going to play a nice macro game. All right, picking up a fast victory in game one with the proxy racks. Our blue Terran player in the bottom left is Cure here on Starchild, a map by Morass. As in the top right, our red Zerg is Team Liquid's Elazer. Yeah, this one comes out into a natural, no ramp on that natural, a choice of base down over here for a third or a base in the forward position for this third, rocks, which would obviously make this third a little bit more easy to hold, despite it being a double entry point. So yeah, that's where you can go up here. And just a lot of rocks in general, really, meaning that later in this game, this map opens up a lot more. Earlier in the game, it's a little bit more closed off. It's a little bit more difficult to maneuver around until you put the time into breaking these rocks down. So yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable way of doing things, right? This map does come from the standard category, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not really meant to have anything too crazy happening on it. And we do have these little purpley green things on the ramp. What do you guys think those are? Huh. I have no idea. It's always fun to have a little investigation on the map. I'm always impressed by, oh my god, when you tilt the right way, the light out of this one just shines right across the screen. I'm always interested by just how many little doodads there are on maps, right? And just how many different ones there are. Like, it feels like at this point I should have seen them all, right? You know, we've been casting Team Liquid map contest tournaments for years. Even maps that don't make it to the ladder, we've seen a lot of them. And there's still, like, little additional things and little, like, decorations I've just not seen before. I'm like, how are there so many available? How do the map makers just keep finding these things? It's crazy. And then it was like, well, maybe they've actually been used before and I just forgot. but to me, it feels amazing because it feels like we always have so many different kind of maps, right? That we already have so many fresh maps. It's very rare that you see, like, a lot of maps are just very similar in color and stuff. I mean, I guess some of the grassy maps, maybe some of the deserty maps, but yeah. I don't know. Very cool. Big fan. There's, yeah, this double ramp factor is something we've been seeing used a little bit in TLMCs recently as well. This kind of down then up. You go down the ramp, you go up the ramp. There's a little bit of awkwardness as well with vision and so on. It obviously acts as a defensive position on either side, right? You can either hold on one side or you can hold on the other, so it just kind of looks cool. A little bit of a dip. Yeah, just answer a couple questions from the chat, and ones which I'm sure a few people have in general. These are maps which will be used potentially in the next ladder map pool. If not the next one, then probably the map pool afterwards. It just sort of depends on the timeline that they're aiming for the map pool. So if the next map pool doesn't have maps from this contest in, the next map pool will have them in. But these tournaments generally are used to figure out which maps will make it to the ladder. And the new ladder map pool, if not featuring this set of maps, will be using them from the last tournament instead. So that's how. That's where this is where all the ladder maps have come from for years upon years at this stage. And you guys can vote on them as well. If you guys type into chat !TLMC vote, you can actually vote for which map you think is the best, which is your favorite, and you can try and give it a chance to win the TLMC. You can give it a chance to win the TLMC map contest. Well, just the TLMC. That's why I'm getting confused. I'm like, the TLMC, what comes after TLMC? No, the TLMC, this just is the Team Liquid map contest, number 17. So, hey, you can give the map a chance. So, go check that out. Few Hellions coming around. It's a fusion core. It was CC first initially from Cure, in case you weren't quite watching the builds, but CC first, and now going to be seeing a fusion core. So battle cruiser play, just very macro kind of greedy kind of style from Cure. Going to have a Viking out to clean out some overlords. Nice some of the vision from Elazer, make his life a little bit more difficult in that regard. Few Hellions getting pinged out as Queens get some damage done. A little bit of damage being dealt, and just going to keep those Hellions at bay for a few moments. So, yeah, keeping Hellions back. Obviously, just making sure they don't get a chance to run in and deal some damage early. How prepped is Elazer going to be for this battle cruiser? I'm not sure he's really ready for it at all right now. No spores. Queens aren't really stacked up together anywhere. Yeah, it's still only halfway built, but it would be nice to start seeing a little bit of intention as to what we're going to be doing with that, right? So, might be nice. As a few Hellions continue to pull back just a little bit, relocating when they can. Creep's actually pushing forward very nicely from Elazer too in 3 different directions, and the Hellions are not doing a great job of really denying the creep just yet. So that creep really is getting a good chance to get forward and to establish itself in those different locations. And here's the BC. 2 Queens, no spore is really rough. I mean, a spore is just meant to be great damage you can do throughout this attack. He's actually going to go after Overlords initially, which I think Elazer doesn't mind as much, because he actually has quite a lot of free supply, so this is probably one of the less bad things that could happen for him, considering he was unprepared. And now he gets all the Queens in the main base. The BC will start to take a bit more serious damage. The Hellions got pushed away. I think you look at this as Elazer and say, well, I lost 1 drone and Overlord, and that's about it. He lost some Lings fighting the Hellions, but he did kill the Hellions off at least. He's going to continue into melee upgrades. I wonder if he, or when he switches into Roaches, and some missile upgrades, because obviously this is full mech play from Cure. Elazer doesn't have a scout across the map because he lost his Overlords early to the Viking, so he doesn't really have a good way to confirm this. But just in general right now, melee upgrades are not really the route you want to be taking. Guys, it's going to be about 1 second. Sorry, guys. Freaking postman just decided to take about 10 years to do anything. Well, I've come back and there's lanes in the base. There's SCVs dying en masse over on the third base to banelings. And there's a battle cruiser having a good old time. So, yeah, it looks like you guys have been having some fun without me. So, yeah, that's kind of a fun one. That's kind of happening, I guess. So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. Like I say, things just literally the guy was like, "Is this house?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Okay." And then he went to the van. I was like, "Oh my god, there's TVZ happening!" And then he came back. He was like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, bro! Like, just give me the freaking piece of paper. Just give me the envelope." Like, ah, tilted, absolutely tilted. All right. Well, meanwhile, drones are continuing to die. And we are going to be seeing Elazer continue to have a bit of trouble then. So 20 and 30 additional drones. Really good thing that he did a good amount of damage himself just recently. Otherwise, this could have been game-ending amounts of damage. So we do have meters coming in and Lings as well. Going to get a little wrap around to clean up a few of those Hellions. Tanks sieging up across the bottom side. And just going to be having ourselves the meters continuing out to the far left. Just going to start pinging around and just trying to keep on doing damage. Obviously, Elazer is still just playing kind of Ling Bane meter against mech, which is far from ideal, I would say. And I think that's a big part of the issue that we're currently seeing, is that he's just kind of not playing the best composition compared to what you would be kind of expecting at this stage. So there's definitely a little bit of a question mark involved, to say the least. I'm just going to see a couple of battlecruisers now coming back over this direction. So BC is going to come along and going to go and try to keep the pressure up. Elazer's got to keep very active. He's got to be very active around the map, continue to get some damage done at any possible opportunity, right? Whenever he can. So we'll be continuing for that right now, as we are going to be seeing a couple of BCs taking a little bit of damage. Let's see, they have the power to just Yamato and yeet out of there as well, though, which is generally a very strong approach, if possible. And there's the power of the BCs, right? They're just so efficient with that. As, yeah, Elazer. Now back to 93 drones. He absolutely needs a high drone count here, right? Without a high drone count, then you're not going to be able to really keep up with the efficiency needed in this game. And to be fair, Elazer's not trading that badly efficiency-wise, and he's been denying economy. I actually think Elazer's doing pretty darn well this game so far. A lot of meters gathering up as well, and obviously with enough meters you can take down a turret quickly, you can get damage. Then he's going to go past this base and go into the Diva base, and then I guess that leaves this base open to attack on the ground. Now, Thor and BC showing up. Here come the banelings. I guess we're going to bust down that planetary. This base is going to survive. There wasn't too many banelings over on the other direction. It was just more of a fact of the fact that they were trying to get to the mineral line. 25 SCVs dead, so Damage has been done. The Mutila's count has gone down, though. This base is burned. Honestly, a few extra Banes here would have been incredible. If you'd been able to knock Cure down to 2 bases during this, that probably ends the game, right? Now this base survives, and like I say, just a handful of additional Banes, and that base would have been a goner. Could have made a big difference. VCs are going to find the Mutas here, and Mutas do not trade well against the Battlecruisers just yet. It's just going to be having our Battlecruisers continuing to the upper right. Overlord taking a few nibbles. We get a Yamato off on a Muta as well. Obviously, you've never built Corruptors to deal with these BCs properly, which is obviously the very typical way of dealing with the Battlecruisers, so that is something that's just never really been done. And kind of hard to just suddenly like start doing that now as well, right? That's not something that you just suddenly decide like, oh yeah, now's a good time, we just crank them out. Because you're still just on Ling Bane as well. I feel like you actually need to be playing the Ling Bane meter at this point. You need the meters to help you give that extra bit of harass to make the Ling Bane just harassing style in general work. But this is always going to be the biggest problem. Having this kind of mech army right on your front doorstep, how do you take this down? Well, the meters aren't going to get rid of very much. The Banes are crashing in, and honestly, the Lings are going to be able to wrap this up. He's actually going to have a chase and force teleports away on the BCs. I'm genuinely kind of impressed. Wow, Elazer, how do you win that fight? That is crazy. Q had more army supply going into this battle, and he gets wiped. That is absolutely crazy to me. Wow, that is almost bonkers, I feel like. No, like, as in the bottom right-hand corner, our blue Terran player is going to be Cure. And the top left-hand side, our red Zerg from Team Liquid is Elazer. Alright. Dragon Scales. This one is nice. I like it. To me, this one is very just plain and simple. In terms of just like the layout and stuff, you get a forward expansion. You can take the linear base. You can take this very forward base as well if you want to be like super aggro, which can be very fun sometimes for certain matchups and certain players. So yeah, I like it. It looks good. And comes from the standard category. Usually that means there's not too much nonsense that you're expecting. It's more just about how the layout plays out more than anything else. That's where we stand as we get this one set to begin. I just put my camera on Indie for a little bit. Alrighty, so Cure not going to go CC first this time around. Going to play a little bit more regular himself here to begin with, at the very least. Going to see a few drones on the way through. Hatch, gas pool. Everything pretty regular. Will we see a bit of bio? We've been seeing a lot of mech lately, haven't we? Well, there's just been a few players that have really enjoyed the mech, and I mean, we casted a lot of Elazer recently. He's definitely been enjoying a lot of mech play, so I guess it's not surprising when you cast people who enjoy playing mech a lot, and like I say, we just casted those guys a lot recently, but yeah, Cure bringing it out in that last game didn't really work, as he does go. Sorry, this was CC first, my apologies. So this is going to be CC first once again, and yeah, just going to go into the factory beyond that and see where we go, but CC first still pretty standard, right? Just kind of setting you up to play a macro game with a little bit more greed to it than usual. That's going to be our starting point here for this game number 3. And of course, Elazer, like I say, not really cheesing, not really doing much of anything special. Just playing his pretty standard setup as well. We'll see what exactly that leads us into. Putting that third hatchery down. Now Hellions will come up, a tech lab going down on the barracks, and just going to be seeing a starport coming in as well. So just a typical 1-1-1, no third CC, right? This is going to be a little bit more pressure focused, and there's the Marauders and Concussive Shell, so we're even going to go the Hellbat route here. Try and really put some pressure on with some Hellbats initially. And obviously Hellbat Marauder is one of the more committed Hellbat attacks you can go into. Hellbat Marauder really does just pack a bit of a punch. So yeah, I expect this to be something that Elazer needs to be very well prepared for. Otherwise, he's probably going to end up in quite a bit of trouble. So we'll see how that goes very, very soon. Let's see, a couple of depots dropping down as well. There's the armory coming up. And Elazer, how is your preparation looking right now? As your lings are coming in, a couple of queens coming out. As the armory coming in, I mean, it is going to be a question of just, even without Banes, it's doable. You just need to have the right amount of lings to start out with. There's a Baneling nest. It's not too late on the Bane nest, although I don't think you'll get Banelings up for the initial attack. Maybe if this persists, maybe you can get them up for a follow-up. Armory's about to be done, so it really shouldn't be long until we see Cure onto the map, and the Hellions have just started to make their move out. Obviously, the medevac is kind of the limiting timer on this. You can't go without the medevac and Marauders, so you have to wait for the medevac either way, and that is now arriving. You might be able to buy a bit of time with just Queens and Lings, and then still get some Banes up for this as well. Now, I'm going to lose one Queen early if we don't keep pulling it back. The Lings picking their moment to try and commit in. There's not been their moment just yet, though, as and we'll see this one Queen going down. But yeah, the Banelings are now on the way through, so it looks like they will get a chance to finish and roll into this, unless we walk straight into the main, which would be a little bit of a wild way to do this, right? And be a little bit greedy. As the first Banelings actually connecting pretty decently on the Hellbats. Gonna get a lot of the Hellbats with the Banelings. Wow, actually really good defense from Elazer. It took a little bit of time bind, and it took a little bit of lost mining time. But he really doesn't lose a lot in that. In fact, the Terran player trades inefficiently overall. Yeah, really just patient defense from Elazer, and Cure just didn't get the splits he needed on the Hellbats. He saw the first couple of Banes come down, and he split like the first group of Hellbats, but then the second group of Hellbats didn't get moved at all. And that was actually kind of a painful problem. That actually did become a bit of an issue. Aliens just patrolling around at the front, trying to see what they can get up to. As we do have ourselves the lab drones, overlords, all continuing up right now. So just bringing them into play. Elazer going to continue attacking through, and you can just see Cure going to get stuck on 44 SCVs. Right, third CC is extremely late here. He has got stim. He's getting his extra barracks up. He's starting engineering base, but yeah, just kind of gets halted on economy a little bit, and that's going to have quite an, overall kind of effect. Definitely will have some, cause some issues further down the line, no doubt. Obviously, first time we're seeing Elazer here today. Obviously, would be a great start, take down Cure. This really is a group that is very much so up in the air, and one which you would kind of expect anyone capable of getting out of. And even more heavily sought after is going to be that #1 spot, because first place in this group sends you straight to the playoffs, which means you don't even need to, not to the playoffs, to round of 8, so you don't even have to play the round of 12 matchup, which is obviously just a whole additional benefit. And hello, yes please, we'll take that any day of the week. Marines and medevacs unload off to the sides, and just going to be seeing our Queens back through the center, making their way over to the right, and it's going to come along. Marines pushing up the right-hand side. We'll get rid of a few creep tumors, clearing out just a little bit. Getting rid of as much as possible along the way as our Marines come through, and just going to get rid of a couple creep tumors to start. Things are going to start running around, getting the wrap around there to play cleanup. Just not letting Cure get too much control. The creep spread is all over the place right now as well here from Elazer. He has so much creep. And that's going to be a real issue for Cure, obviously, as time passes by. And Cure just pumping out 11 Marines at once, 7 racks. I feel like he's going to be pretty all-in on this 3-base setup. And you can understand why, the way this game started. So yeah, I feel like he's just going to be kind of pretty heavily committed here. And obviously, creep spread like this means that heavy commitments, attacks that need to go and go quickly, are going to be punished, because Elazer is going to be in a situation where he just sees so much of the map, he's going to be safe. And Cure doesn't really have the time to stop clean creep, wait for it to disappear, then move further forward. He kind of has to just go, go, go once this attack decides it's going to start off. So His 1-1 upgrades are finished, and you can see Cure pushing out with a big army now in a must-win situation. He has not built workers for a while. This is a must-win fight for him that is setting up in the middle of the map. So needs to be very careful. You can see the Ling Bane is on its way over, getting set. Deciding if it wants to fight in or not. Some Banelings getting to go off already. The Bane's going to roll up this ramp. Elazer's fighting just off creep, which is obviously a little bit of a shame because he has creep everywhere else, apart from obviously this far forward, which makes perfect sense given the circumstances. So I would just like to see him. Just don't feel like he needs to be this far forward, right? Don't feel like he necessarily needs to be fighting here. He has so much room left on the map for these fights to take place in. Instead, he's just trying to catch it early, which definitely has some benefits. You know, there's definitely, good reason to do this. There's definitely times where this can benefit you a lot. It's going to be absolutely fine for him as well in this situation, too. It just maybe made it a little bit closer than it needed to be. Again, those Verad Banelings working well during the fights already. And Elazer will close this series out with a 2-1 victory. Elazer picking up this W and walking this one to the house. GG's.